Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Southwest Florida Business Podcast. I'm Chris, and today we're joined by Bryan Durkin, and we cover quite a bit. We cover a lot. This was an awesome episode, and if you're interested in finding out really what it's like to be stuck in your business and kind of get to the next level, some of the ways that he looks at addressing that and how he works with his customers to actually pull that off, we dive into that. We cover his 2 books, Stuck on First and Power Hitting with Virtual Teams, what it's like to go out, find your perfect customer, how to engage with them, how to increase your leads, everything on that. So if you're interested in taking your business from really, I know no pun intended, but from being stuck on first and taking it to the next level, this is a good place to start. There's a lot of great info in here. So enjoy. Ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, Bryan, let's do this. Thanks for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. It's awesome.
Cool. All right, so I want to dive into a couple things with you. We've talked a few times, and actually I've learned quite a bit, even just from our 2 phone calls that we've had. So thank you for that knowledge already.
Happy to share it anyway. Absolutely.
So you're with MVP Inner Circle and MVP Team Pro.
That's right.
Those are the 2 companies that you run.
Yep.
So as we're kind of diving into this, I have a lot of questions around starting businesses, the mindsets around it, outsourcing, different work, everything like this. So we're going to dive into quite a bit, but what are these 2 companies and how did they come about?
So this started as a long and winding road, right? The overnight success that took me 15 years to figure out, as everybody else. So my Inner Circle started out as a consulting business where I was helping people basically sell more stuff.
Okay.
And what ends up happening is the classic case of, do you got a guy? And so we would do marketing automation or other advanced stuff, and then I would just find freelancers to do the work so they would get the work done. That has evolved into a core program with our Inner Circle members where we focus on 3 things. We focus on mindset, methods, what's the third one? Well, we focus on mindset and we focus on methods, right?
Okay.
Oh, and markets, excuse me. Markets, mindset, and methods. So we think about those 3 things. Markets is the key thing. We were having this discussion before we came. Who does your perfect future customer look like? Because that's the core part of what the Inner Circle members focus on is, what does my customer look like? There's a difference between I'm an agency owner, an insurance agency owner, to an independent insurance agency who sells life, long-term care, disability, and annuities, and has more than 15 people on staff and does more than 5,000 policies a year. They're completely different, right?
Well, they're 2 totally different answers, and they kind of show you where your head's at a little bit. Because when you asked me before, I was like, well, it's for business owners in the area. And you're like, what does that mean?
Exactly.
Like, well, it's for these. And you're like, what does that mean? I'm like, damn, I think I got to work on these 3 M's right now.
Yeah, so understanding your market's really, really, really critical, right?
Yeah.
The other part of it and where the VAs come in or the virtual teams come in is really this: how do you reach those people? What's the method you use to do that?
Okay.
And if you think about what an entrepreneur's day looks like, they're going to get up, they're going to get on social media, they're going to go through their homing process, whatever you call it. They're going to click on their 3 things on Instagram, they're going to go to Facebook, they're going to go to LinkedIn, whatever. Now all of a sudden you may have spent 90 minutes on that. So in that same 90 minutes, if you have basically an outwardly focused team member doing something for you that creates value, then all of a sudden the method of social media isn't just a dopamine release for us because we like it, but it moves the needle forward because something has happened. So that's an example of the method part.
Okay.
And then the last part of it that we talk about all the time with our Inner Circle members is the mindset. So we talked about it earlier, the mindset of, the work needs to get done. I will challenge you, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And then I will equally challenge people of, well, if it needs to get done, is it really in your zone of genius? Is it what you should be doing with your day? Just because you know how to run the monthly end report that shows when was people who haven't purchased in the last 18 months of over $5,000, does that mean you need to do it?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
You want to send out thank you cards to all past people who have purchased from you. Do you need to be the one responsible for doing it, or do you just need to make sure that it gets done? And that's where that concept of the mindset of no one knows my business better than me, and you're right. And from a content creation point of view, there is no one better.
Yeah.
But from a delivery of how it gets put out on social, or how it gets delivered on an email, or how it gets delivered in a direct mail or a shock and awe box or a phone call, you don't necessarily need to be the one doing that.
Sure.
So those three core pieces really drive everything in the business. And then our Team Pro offer really is about, do you have a guy? So we have a core offer where we have a series of services that we will do: lead generation, follow-up, phone calls, sales management, CRM management, technical stuff for customers who are engaged with us. And they're all an extension of our inner circle members, because they're like, hey, now that you've decided what to do, who's going to do it?
Okay.
And now we've got an offer where we can basically say, okay, it's a mix of people. It's not one person. It's a mix of people.
Got it. So the inner circle is really is fixing the mindset piece at its core, and Team Pro is more of the, hey, if you know that now, here's the method. So we'll help you figure out what you're doing, and then we'll actually help you do it.
And correct. We did that because of scale, right? Because
Sure.
I can help hundreds of people with mindset. I can help hundreds of people with methods, but I can't do it all for them.
Sure.
So that's why we created this team of people to saying, let's use lead generation. Every B2B customer in the world wants new customers.
Yeah.
But they think they know where to find them. Well, in our inner circle part of our mindset piece of it, we actually dig deep and really, really deep to figure out what their perfect future customer really looks like, how they act, where they hang out. And then we use our team just to touch them in every way we possibly can.
Okay.
And and because we have different people doing it with all their different areas of expertise, we're relentless. There's only one way to get off our list, and that's if you die.
Okay, good to know. So on that front, so with this, the Team Pro, it's more focused on the outbound lead generation. Is that correct?
Yeah,
or is it more than that?
So the bulk of the business is, I have a team in the Philippines. We have an office in the Philippines. We've just opened up physical space there. I've made an investment in a call center there. So we literally have a team of people ready to help with that. Now, because I'm a B2B sales professional at heart, I'm a marketing guy at heart,
Sure.
I realize people need more customers. Well, you can run ads, which is considered inbound. You can do other inbound techniques, right? You can do organic. No one wants to do outbound because it's difficult. And quite honestly, especially in the US, if you have an inside sales job, those people last maybe a month, maybe two. But with our team in the Philippines, that's a way of life. Call centers are a career path.
Yeah.
And because we use these magnetic marketing techniques that we build in our inner circle side of things, it's not such a hard sell. It's just basically facilitating the relationship and moving it through the process.
Yeah.
So because of that, we get better people there because they're not stressed out and figure they're going to get fired. And we also, they have it because we really target the perfect client. We don't have to filter through the road noise.
Okay.
And you can't do that unless you have a team of people going through it consistently.
So I want to touch on two things with this, and maybe we'll come back to the outsourcing part with maybe some of the preconceived notions with
Sure.
outsourcing to the Philippines. I know I had them when we talked last time. You kind of, I won't say dismissed it in like a dismissal way, but you kind of, you changed my perspective on that. So I want to come back to that because
Sure.
it was interesting to hear that. But one thing that I do want to cover is like, how do you kind of figure out who your customers are, and then when they want to work with you, what are they looking at to go after your customers' ideal customers? Like, what does that process look like?
So for our internal lead generation purposes, you mean? Or
Start with that, and then once you actually get a customer and they want to find their ideal customers, what's that research and recon and that sales process?
So my research and recon process is I know what my customer looks like. So they are a B2B, they're a direct owner. They've been in business for 10 or more years. They have 5 or more employees. They're typically doing between $2 and $15 to $18 million in sales.
Okay.
And they sell complicated stuff. That's the key because their customers are long-term, right? They're selling software, they're selling complex services, they're selling industrial equipment, they're selling that kind of stuff. And what they need is someone that understands that complex solution selling process. Mm-hmm. And how do I net it down into the 15 little micro steps that they need to do to figure out what that customer looks like? And so I get my crystal ball out and I go on LinkedIn and I type in, I use some advanced search techniques that is a core part. That's how our Team Pro offer started. We were doing LinkedIn lead generation services during COVID because nobody knew how to do anything other than spam people.
Yep.
And we go from, hey, do you want to get together for a cup of coffee, to, hey, Chris, I visited your podcast site, saw you only had 4 episodes. How'd you like to get 20 new people on your podcast every month? Let's talk on Thursday at 3:00. P.S. That session you did with Bryan was awesome. Which one are you going to respond to? And so that's that's the approach we take to go find those customers. And quite honestly, we've been limited by scale, meaning me, which is I have a mindset problem too. I had a limiting belief that says, hey, what if I go all in and people don't want this?
Sure.
And I made a soft announcement to just a few people in January about my interest in this call center, and I've got 4 out of the 5 people were actively engaged to put an active call center and get piece of their business in some part of their business.
Okay.
Some of it's follow-up that says, did you get our stuff? Some of it's sales related that says, can I talk to more people of you? Some of it's verifications. One of my customers has a very large existing customer database that's probably 20 years old, and probably 25% are garbage, but the customers are good, but the wrong person. And he said, I've always wanted to hire someone just to call people and verify who they are. And are they the right person? And I'm like, well, how about we get them started? And they're starting Monday.
Okay.
So, but that person's full-time job is going to be calling all these big industrial Fortune 500 companies and be like, hey, is Joe still the plant manager? Oh no, Joe left and you need to talk to Tony. Okay, great.
Okay.
And would this be Tony's email? Okay, yep, that'd be great. Okay, thank you. And literally, we call that verification, right?
Sure.
So the verification's a big part of it. And the pre-sales, it's also a big part of it. Is the business still open?
Yep.
Do they have openings today? Great marketing tip. If you ever want to check on your competitors, call and ask if you can get a meeting today. If they say yes, that means they're not doing something right.
Okay.
Because that means they don't have a sales process or a marketing process to keep their days full. Right? So chiropractors, we had someone call chiropractors. They had an immediate, how many appointments today? I'm calling for my brother. Well, can you have something this morning, this afternoon kind of stuff? And it was the same deal. Like, we knew that they didn't have a marketing system because they were wide open this morning and wide open this afternoon, means they wanted to fill more spots. Yeah. So our customer, who was a marketing agency who supported chiropractic, a week later, miraculously, they got a package in the mail that said, hey, you have open slots in your schedule? We know you do because we called. We can fix that.
Yep.
Now the conversation from a sales perspective is completely different.
Because you have something, you know what the pain is. You actually have something of value that you can deliver that's targeted to what the pain is. Almost like you're reading their mind.
Matt, because they told you.
Yeah.
So the whole idea with this virtual team stuff is, if you had time to do every single piece of the process and you could actually do it, this is the stuff you would do.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, is that they're not reinventing necessarily. We have tips and tricks on some of the specific platforms and some of the media, but it's just a matter of every leader, every business owner, every entrepreneur, they know that if they could just talk to more people, they would do more. They would have a much better business, because conversations equals opportunities. You can't have, we started with a conversation. I saw Keith's post. I follow Keith. I know Keith from 20 years ago from a previous life.
Yeah.
And I was like, you need help. And I was like, we just talked and here we are today, doing the same thing.
Well, half the battle is just putting it out there too. I mean, just getting started with some of this stuff.
That's always the biggest, because what if they mess up, right? What if someone says something that's not in my voice?
Well, and you actually just brought something up before too that was interesting, and by doing the same method is how I ended up actually starting this particular thing, but having that feeling of, well, I don't know if I want to go all in on this because I don't know if it'll fail, and I don't know if anybody is interested or will want this, and just kind of putting out that soft feeler, even initially, that's what got 10 people to reach out to me after said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Oh yeah, I need that here. Talk to this person, and I call them, and it kind of falls into place. It's that initial step of sometimes you gotta, putting that soft feeler out is actually one of the most beneficial things that I've done to start something like this, because you don't know what people need. You call those 5 people, it's, wow, you called at the perfect time. Did you know that we actually need somebody to do this? That was a very helpful move for me as well.
Yeah, no, people don't know what they don't know, and that's where growth occurs, right? So that's the key, and you have to ask people. Now, I know plenty of people. They want to build it, and they will come mentality. And most successful entrepreneurs that I know, and I have all kinds of crazy friends. And one of my friends is a dentist in a small town in Wisconsin of 30,000 people. He has an 18-seat dental practice and a 3-month solid wait to go to the house of hell, the house of pain. So think about it. Now he's got marketing systems, he does everything, but he's in a town of 30,000 people. And we talked to him about call center stuff. He's like, Bryan, I need to hire 3 more dentists. There's physical seats involved.
Yeah.
I can't run people through. It's not like some businesses that have infinite more scale. It's like I'm literally booked for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I have a waiting list with 40 people on it trying to get a cancellation.
Yeah.
He's like, so we're stacked. But he's got a complete marketing system. He's been at it for years. It's not an accident. But most entrepreneurs, either they build the opposite, or they wait. I call it getting ready to get ready. So we talk about that in my book. Don't get ready to get ready because you got to get on base.
Yeah.
You can't hit home runs by yourself. You can get one run.
Yeah. Well, can we talk about this book? So you have a book, Stuck on First. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about what it's about? Because I want to dive into some of these mindset pieces that go into starting business or when you've launched it, then the growth things. And you even mentioned you suffer from some of the mindset stuff still. And so I'm very curious to hear about that.
So the concept of Stuck on First is you can't round the bases by yourself.
Yep.
I can hit a home run, but if I get to first base, I can't get to second or third or home without a teammates and a plan. So every successful baseball organization, every successful business organization have coaches, have teammates, and have a plan. So the idea of Stuck on First is your business is stuck on first if you can't understand that concept.
Okay.
And that's the key part of it is how you do that. And we talk in different parts about how do you fill the stadium, how do you fill the other stuff. So I tied a lot of the concept of bringing together the concept of business and baseball and how to do that, and then share my story of how I got into how my business grew 15 years ago when we were stuck. We were in a document scanning business, kind of a transition. My business scanned pieces of paper.
Okay.
When my business partner at the time had a records management company, not unlike a small moving and storage company that was storing bankers boxes for doctors. And I was like, this is crazy. Why are you driving all over the place, delivering 4 files to the stuff long before e-records, even though they're not perfect and they're not even implemented fully today. This is 20-some years ago. And so at the time, we were lucky to scan 1,500 pages of stuff a day. So in reference, that's 2 bankers boxes if we were lucky. I had a staff of 4 people. I went to a conference. I met some guy, I don't remember his name. He had a document coding company. I was like, document coding company? He's like, Bryan, I have a team in India. You give us the pieces of paper. We'll do the data entry, which is the bottleneck.
Yeah.
You give us the data entry and and the next morning we'll give you back the results. I'll teach you how to put it into your system and off you go. So in 18 months, we grew from 2 employees in the US and no one overseas to 26 employees in the US and over 225 in overseas with 2 different companies. And we were partnering with companies. And I was like thinking to myself going, man, like this is crazy. Like I'm thinking of the movies at the time, like these bad Indian call center movies where, they're in a hut somewhere. There's no windows, there's no air conditioning. And he sent me pictures, Class A space, multiple data streams, highly educated workforce, right? And just happened, it's called purchasing power parity. It's the fact that $10 in other parts of the world is like $100 here, right? It's all relative, right? The pricing and the costs are relative. And because of that, our business went crazy. And I told my customer, here's price A, do it in the US, and price B, if you do it overseas. And 95 times out of 100, they would pick the lower cost piece of it. Okay. And we literally, when I sold my interest in the business, we were doing about, on average, 300,000 transactions a day. So you went from 1,500 to 300,000 in 18 months. It was bananas.
So the bottleneck in that case was what aspect of it?
The bottleneck was, yes, there was bottlenecks everywhere because it was a business. So what we did was we focused our U.S. operations on the quality of inputs and outputs. So what we did was we took pieces of paper from doctors' offices, legal cases, accounts receivable, all kinds of we were a divergent customer base, and we focused on making sure if we took 1,252 pieces of paper in 22 files for 18 customers out of a box of that we got that same information on the output side.
Okay.
So we were able to really pay attention to really pay attention to the process. So we built systems, and those systems had 3 to 7 steps.
Okay.
And then extensively, and the book talks about our marketing systems also had 3 to 7 steps.
Okay.
Right? Because people can remember, there's a reason why your phone number has 7 digits in it, because your brain is wired to 3s and 4s. It's something your psychological thing helps do it. It's easier for people to remember.
Okay.
So there's some trivia you didn't know.
Nope.
So our systems, and once you got past that certain level, we would put it into another system, right?
Okay.
And systems are just steps, right? They can be written on a piece of paper.
Sure.
They don't need to be complicated things. But we found even then, our marketing system had an outside telemarketer who would make 100 calls a day, who would get us 15 people requesting information and 2 or 3 appointments. It's amazing how that works. Sounds a lot like Facebook ads and conversions and all this stuff. It's humans selling to humans.
Sure.
And we had a system for follow-up. You only talk to me after it went through a 3-step process internally. And the only time I got on the phone with a client or went to a client meeting is if all those questions were answered. Now, that wasn't 100% true, but we went from closing, 1 customer every 3 months to closing 3 or 4 customers a month. And when your customers stay with you on a long-term contract for multiple years, it's easy how that adds up.
Sure.
And so what we're doing today is in essence very much the same thing. We just have, because the world's so connected right now, I have people all over doing stuff. I've got customers during COVID. I have customers in Tokyo, in London, Ireland, and all over the United States, from world headquarters of MVP, which is in my garage in Naples. So, I'm on Zoom calls all day long.
Yeah.
And I have customers, and they're just like, so in that case, people are much more used to it. But when I was doing it in the late 90s, I was doing what AT&T and Chase Manhattan Bank were doing.
Yeah.
People thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm able to process 300,000 transactions in a 24-hour period, and that would take you a month. You decide which one you want to do.
Yeah.
I'll take that. We still had bumps and everything else, but
sure.
That made me really think differently. And when I had a chance to move to Naples, I consulted, and then 3.5 years ago when I joined a mastermind, I was like, you know what? People know me for 2 reasons. I'm the VA guy. My answers are 2 things. Check on LinkedIn. If you're listening to this, you need to be on LinkedIn. And 2, have VAs or have someone else do the work.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready to make the jump to full-time one, I get it. Have someone else other than you or someone physically in your office doing the work for you, because then it requires you to build systems.
Yeah.
This is what my daily tasks look like on Instagram. This is what my daily task is on LinkedIn. These are the people I need to follow up with because I talked to them 6 weeks ago.
Well, and you mentioned that when we were talking last about if you have other people that are part of it, you become more invested in the thing that you're doing, whatever that business is. If you have somebody that's working for you, then it's not just you kind of figuring things out. Like, you have to show up.
Really interesting concept. This is relatively new to me. There's an author by the name of Gay Hendrick. He wrote a book called The Zone of Genius. I don't even think that's the right name of the book. I'll put it on the show notes. I don't remember what it is. He talks about people have 3 levels. They have a zone of competence, they have a zone of excellence, and they have a zone of genius. By having other people do the work in zone of competence and the zone of excellence, you get to focus as an entrepreneur on your zone of genius.
Yeah.
So now, as a result of me being free, I get to have conversations with cool guys like you about, hey, how are we doing more of this stuff? As opposed to figuring out tech, figuring out platforms, figuring out why CRMs aren't doing stuff. I still dabble in zones of excellence because I have a small business like everybody else.
Sure.
I'm good at copy. I'm good at stuff. So a lot of our inner circle members use me as a sounding board so they can focus on their zone of excellence. But they pay for it.
Sure.
They pay me for my time, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But that's the idea behind this whole madness is, okay, my mindset, think about it. My mindset says I shouldn't be doing it. I should be in my zone of genius. I should be hitting triples and home runs. It all reinforces it. Sounds familiar, right?
Yeah.
And having someone else other than you being accountable to you, it now all of a sudden the urgency comes, because when we have our weekly or bi-monthly call and I go, hey, where's those updates so that my call team can make their calls, and the manager of the call center is going, hey, where's my list? You're going to feel obligated to get them the information you needed to do, and then as quickly as possible, get it off your plate.
Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite thing to say on a call with a client is, how else can I help you? How can I help you? Because I know in my head, I think I know the answer, but I let them answer. How can I help you? Well, could you have somebody like log into this system and pull this report down on Fridays? Yes. Could you spend 10 minutes recording it? Oh yeah. Just next time you do it, just hit the record button. It's not going out on television.
Yeah.
It's a recording tool. It's a conversation like we're having.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep it simple.
Try to keep it simple. The trick with working with any kind of remote team, whether it's somebody in Poughkeepsie or the Philippines, is have a defined beginning, a defined middle, and an end. And if you get really good at it, you'll show them what a screw up looks like, and you definitely want to show them what success looks like.
Okay.
So that's why doing these recording videos of like, hey, I'm doing this report. This is a real example. Give me a list of the weekly report of people that bought from us 18 months ago, but haven't purchased from us in 18 months, and the value was over $10,000.
Sure.
Some special report. You got to go in and hit 3 buttons and do it because the system can't automate it. Just record us doing it and then let our team handle it for you. Because then we do a bunch of other things downstream.
Yeah.
We're sending out postcards. We're sending out follow-up emails.
Based on this information.
We're sending letters. They're getting packages, like stuff that are marketing-related tasks that my team is handling. Now, all of a sudden, the beginning part is even off their hands. So now you start to build systems.
Yep.
And then you look a year later. Recently, 2 clients said, Bryan, business is up 30% year over year for the last 2 years. I said, how long have we been working together? He goes, 2 years. I like to claim all the credit for it, and I'm going to take all the credit for it.
How dare you? But okay, so with that, right? So in these cases, it seems like then kind of the success that you're finding with some of these is the method, obviously, outsourcing some of this, but it seems like putting the systems in place is kind of that, I won't say silver bullet, but that's the foundation kind of that you have to build some of this stuff.
So our master plan is we only offer things that we're masters at.
Okay.
So that's why we do lead generation, because we know what it looks like. We know how to do it. We already have the systems built.
Okay.
We work with you on what does your perfect future customer look like, because that's only you know that. I can provide some input on what I think, but you have to believe it as an owner.
Okay.
And then we just drop them into the process.
Got it. Okay. So you guys have mastered this process. You have the systems in place. Look, we found this. Here's your ideal customer. Here's what you're trying to go after. Here's how we can help. We have these systems, and then boom, we roll it out, and then the leads come in.
Yep. And the interesting part about it, to me, the most fascinating part is we spend, if you talk about the Facebook Zuckerberg tax, right? Zuckerberg wants to give you money so he can figure all that out.
Okay.
And you can burn a hole in your Amex card pretty quickly. So what we do is we do the opposite. We'll spend 4 times as much time looking for that perfect client to figure out what they look like, so that you don't need to go out to 1,000 people to get one of your perfect buyers. You might need to identify 30 or 40 or 50.
Sure.
Because then you can spend more money to acquire that client. Mm-hmm. Because now all of a sudden you know what your universe looks like. Because you think Facebook wants to tell you how much you're going to spend before you get a client. They're never going to tell you that. But I'm going to tell you, hey, listen, if the math works, if your deal is worth $30,000, your margin's 30%, that means you're going to make $10,000 in profit. How much are you willing to spend to acquire that client? Right?
Yeah.
Will you spend $200? Absolutely. Will you spend $500? Probably. Will you spend $1,000? Maybe.
Yeah.
Will you spend $5,000? Probably not. So now we can back into, does the math make sense?
Yeah.
And, as they say, he who spends the most amount of money to acquire a client wins. There's always a big guy in every market. Someone's mad about them. I could do better, cheaper, faster. They're spending more money to acquire a client than you are.
Okay.
Until you can figure out the math. And in the beginning, it's really scary, because that's why the systems are important, because you got to know what that customer looks like. Because otherwise you're going to spend a ton of, and by the way, I did it. I spent a ton of money on LinkedIn and Facebook ads as I was targeting a certain niche, right? Mm-hmm. Coaches and consultants, because I thought as a coach, I could help more people. And what I found was the only people buying were other coaches who didn't have anything to do but buy other coaching products instead of go selling something. So it was like, I'm like, okay, you guys are broke. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, you weren't hitting so you found in that case that you weren't actually hitting the people that were your ideal customer, but
I wanted to help them, but they didn't have any money.
Yeah, and that's a big factor.
That's why the only free consulting I ever give is to kid entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
because they don't listen either, but at least they're kids.
Well, I'm somewhere in that zone. I'll take it.
I mean high school kids. I mentor in the Collier School system in their entrepreneur program.
you?
So anyone who's listening, contact me if you want to get involved. It's a great program. It's ending for the year. They're kind of in their home stretch. It's a great way to give back to the kids because there's all kinds of opportunities. You can go in once. You can go in every week. I go in every week for a couple hours because I'm fortunate enough because my team is working while I'm at the local at Gulf Coast High School helping out. And I've been to all the high schools in the county and I share as much as I can, but it's a great resource.
Okay, that's cool. How'd you get into that?
I saw something on LinkedIn and I reached out to Courtney Stallman, who runs the CTE program at Collier Schools, and said, would love to help.
Okay.
Tony Robbins says, if you're not giving, you're not living. And I felt I needed to give more. And I've been giving ever since. And I've been doing it for six years now. It's been fantastic.
You feel like that was like a big turning point for you when you started doing that?
Yeah. First of all, you have to invest in yourself because if you don't invest in yourself, no one else will.
Yeah.
And I'm big into personal development and have been for the last probably 7 or 8 years. And everything about my life, everything about my business has changed because I've taken some pretty deep dives and I've done some pretty crazy stuff. But I was like, if I don't do it, no one else is going to.
Yeah.
And had a chance to go to some Tony Robbins events, local client of mine. Tony was an investor, got to dive in the deep end, didn't know what was going on. Tony said, if you're not planning your business, you're stuck on first. And that's where the title came from.
Really?
I was sitting in the front row. Tony's a big guy. And I was wearing a baseball jacket because I was freezing because his events are like subarctic temperature things.
Get your blood up and everything.
And he does to keep your attention up. And he's screaming and he's going, your effing business is stuck. It's stuck on first. Got this big slide. My wife's punching me. She's like, why don't you finish the book? And that was my catalyst to actually finish the book because I was already coaching people on that. I was a first base coach at the time.
Okay.
Right. Because you had to get on base. If you got on base, I'll get you around.
Yeah.
Or third base coach. Excuse me. I was a third base coach because if you got on base, I'll get you home.
Yeah.
In baseball, that's the third base coach's job. You got to get on base, but once you get on base, it's his job to get behind you to bunt or steal or do whatever. So when you read the book, you'll get an understanding of kind of where that comes from. But personal development's huge. Like everyone needs to do it. Whatever makes sense. There's lots of resources. The trick is, I got something out of helping the kids because I just went to there and said, how can I help?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go in there and saying, what do you need me to do? I said, how can I help? And I just dove in. I said, I could go to the classroom and I built a great relationship. I see kids out that are in their 20s now that I coached 5 years ago. And they're like, hey, you're that crazy guy that said, you're going to remember that crazy guy. That's how I'm not a teacher. I'm just, and I share with them the exact same techniques that I do every day.
Yeah.
The difference is that unlike a coach or consultant who's broke, they're not going to implement it anyway, but they're kids. But they're going to hear it. They're going to understand it.
Yeah.
And as they go through their entrepreneurial journey, they need to think entrepreneurially. Whether you work for a company or not, you have to think like, what's the end game? How am I going to get this done? And then how am I going to be a relentless implementer?
Yeah.
Because those that are relentless implementers are the ones that win at the game of business.
What do you mean relentless implementer?
They're always doing something, and they're always doing something that has results. Star hitters don't just do batting practice; they actually put it into play on the field.
Yeah.
Right. So the batters that make the most contact have the highest batting average because they put the ball in play more than anyone else. Unless you're Bryce Harper and you're swinging for the fences because he's getting paid $40 million a year to do that. The other 25 guys on the team aren't getting paid to do that.
Yeah.
So it's the whole idea of how business and baseball align, right? So if you make more contact and you have more physical, emotional, whatever connections with your perfect clients, past or not, your life and your business is going to change. Hell, there's probably $1 million in your cell phone.
Yeah.
People you talked to 6 months ago, 2 years ago, used to work with. Hey, how are you doing? I was thinking of you. That's it.
Yeah.
What do I say? How are you? It's all about you. It's not about me. It's all about you. So
interesting.
So that's the marketing stuff. So it's all about mindset, right? It's a big shift for most people because we get caught up in tactics.
Well, we get caught up in tactics, and you also get caught up in, I think this is a great name, because you get caught up in the things, the reasons why you can't do something or why you shouldn't do something. And, well, if I do that, I don't know if it'll work, or, will it be really received, or this and that. I feel like I come up with a million reasons why something can't happen or wouldn't happen. Even you spend more time on that sometimes than you do on the actual implementation of the things that will work.
And by the way, what do we do in marketing all the time? We just test what doesn't work.
Yeah.
So all we're doing is finding out what doesn't work. And that's the trick of one of my mentors was doing some social media, like instant messaging people, and she was incredibly frustrated because people weren't consuming her products. And I couldn't share good or bad or different if people wanted her product, but I was like, why are you doing it? Like, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Like, you should have someone else do it.
Yeah.
This is a single. This is a $10 item. This is a single. You should pick a handful, right? But you shouldn't be doing so if out of 100 people, maybe you talk to 5. Okay, that's fair. So let someone else do the other 95.
Sure.
Because the same math that says out of those 100 people, there's only going to be 2 or 3 buyers in that cycle, because that's the psychology of selling, right? So 1 to 3% of the people are going to do what you're asking of them. Mm-hmm. So it's just then it becomes a numbers game.
How do you get in contact with those people?
How do you get in contact? And you have to do it every day. That's the relentless implementation. You got to do it every single day. If you spend 45 minutes every day working out, you will lose weight.
Yeah.
If you spend 45 minutes doing outreach every day, you will get clients. You will have conversations. You will fill your calendar up with meetings.
Yeah.
Once people go through the 2 days where it doesn't happen, they just go, this shit doesn't work.
Yep.
And that's completely untrue.
Yeah.
That's completely untrue, because it's just.
But that's the trick. That's the trick that you tell yourself, especially if you catch that wave on the bottom of the emotional piece where you're like, I'm not feeling it, and then it doesn't work. I give up. So how do you help people kind of think through that? Or
we do that, but because someone else is implementing it, you don't feel the lows.
Okay.
I mean, that's the practical part of if the CEO of the $25 million business isn't trying to set up joint venture calls, and he's only doing the 2 or 3 that responds every couple of days, then that's all he's got. That's the only universe he needs to deal with is the success universe.
Got it. And then you let the rest of the systems that are in place facilitate that.
Yep.
So you're not riding the waves of emotions of 30 different positions.
Correct.
You're getting the end results of that system.
Yeah, and then what we do is we'll adjust.
Okay.
Right? Things sometimes messages don't work. They don't sound like me. Then we just adjust it.
Yep.
It's not like a Facebook ad. It's like, no, we're just gonna make a change. We're gonna say this a little differently, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna send them a LinkedIn. We're gonna talk to them on LinkedIn. We're gonna talk to them on email. We're gonna talk to them on the phone, and we're gonna send them direct mail.
So going to the actual team that you've got in the Philippines and coming back to this perception piece of it, because when you and I talked, I was like, all right, what about accents? What about these kinds of things? And just like things that you may like, I have encountered that in the past, and I was curious about that and how that works with Outbound and things like that. Can you please share your views on this? Because
get over it.
Yeah. Well, it changed the way I think, but
yeah. So really, get over it.
Okay.
Because that's just got to get over it. There is a perception that people sound foreign. Here's why. Every one of us has been frustrated when our technology doesn't work. We call the 800 number, we do the chat thing, and we talk to some remote call center in the Philippines or in India or wherever it happens to be, and we're frustrated, we're mad, and we can't understand them. Right now, unfortunately, those are probably the lowest level call center positions. They're to try to filter people out, to get them to answer the series of questions, to get you to calm down, to pass you off to the right person, or to tell you got to spend money or buy some other stuff. So we have this psychological thing that equates, I'm talking to a call center because I have a problem and I'm trying to get them to try to fix it. They're trying to figure out where to get you, right? And that's the murder of inbound. So we have this perception. We've all had that experience, right? We've called Comcast. The other one, that's the other option, right? So it's the same thing. Yeah. So you
mean you're not thrilled with their customer service?
Think about one of the largest telecommunications provider in the country. Their customer service was so bad they had to change their name.
Really?
Xfinity. That's their consumer brand.
Okay.
Think about it. They created that Xfinity brand to try to relaunch their customer experience. Yeah. So very true. So one, just get over it, right?
Yeah.
Does it matter that they sound foreign? Yeah. That's a perception thing.
Sure.
To me, what's more effective? Someone actually making the phone call or waiting for the perfect person to find the perfect person to do it? Done is better than perfect 100% of the time.
Yeah.
In my world, we have a saying that says version 1 is always better than version none.
100%.
And so we just say, get over it. And if people ask, we just tell them we're calling from our call center in Manila, but my boss lives in Florida, or our team members. And once you get used to hearing them, and there's some there's some things you can do if it's a call perspective. First of all, we never try to sell anything on those calls. We're just trying to give them more information or set up a time for you to talk to whoever the person you need to talk to is. So we personally don't do the selling part of it because I don't think that's an effective way. That's not how our teams work, and that's not how we drive business, right? We drive business by putting our business leader on a Zoom call or a webinar 2 or 3 times a week with a perfect client. We're not trying to figure out how to sell them a $29 widget special today, or scamming them, whatever. So, and as I said earlier in the call or earlier today, in the Philippines, what's fascinating is they have a culture of subserviency and a culture of servitude. That's part of their Christianity, and they're a heavily Catholic country.
Okay.
So one of the biggest challenges with working with them is that if they have a problem, they're not going to tell you. They're going to ghost you. They're going to disappear. So that tends to be one of the challenges with working with them directly because they're not going to share that information. But they're not aggressive culturally. They're not going to be abrasive.
Okay.
That's just not in their culture. It's no different. And I'm from New Jersey. Someone from New York is very different from someone from Nebraska.
Yep.
So if you think of it that way, it's really no different, except the Filipinos tend to be like the Nebraska people. They just want to be, and all they're worried about is getting paid. Yeah. They're not worried. They're worried about doing a good job. One of my team members, she was all frustrated because one of our customers hadn't had a new lead in about a week or 10 days. And she's like, what am I going to do? I'm like, you're going to keep following the process because it works. And on Friday, she had 5 really high value conversions with potential sales of worth almost $100,000. So it's like, okay, so the process works. You just got sometimes they say,
there's a slump.
Yeah, you don't know when. Just because you don't want to buy today doesn't make you not a customer. It just means you're not ready to buy today.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So the whole concept of magnetic marketing, which is our core principles, is that it's not that you buy, it's that you buy from me, and that when you're ready to buy. Now, there's some things we can do to psychologically move that up a little bit.
Sure.
But that's the core offer is that, and I never want you to leave.
Yeah.
We've had this inner circle model for 3.5 years, and we've had one customer close that line of business, and that's it. Everyone else has been sticking with us. So it's a fantastic retention rate because, I hope to continue that. Well, we will continue that, but it's fantastic because we're making fundamental changes in what they're doing in their business because we're building systems and someone's implementing it.
Okay.
It's easy to come up with ideas. It's hard to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm thankful that we kind of had this conversation because it did change the way that I think about some of these. It's you put these limiting beliefs right up in front of you, and then we're talking, and it's like, no, you got to look at how to solve the problem. There's all these other solutions out there. Focus on the solution, not the limitation necessarily.
Think about this. Would you book airfare? Would you just go on your computer and start booking airfare, or would you figure out where you want to go on vacation first?
Yep.
It's the most ridiculous thing, right? Oh, they can't possibly do this. What do you mean? They're like, do you want to go to Disney World or Disneyland? They're 2 different places.
Yeah.
You're not going to just buy airfare to go to Disneyland if you want to go to Disney World.
Yeah.
So this type of work is no different. And, the other part of that same thing is if you're not ready to jump into full time, you don't want to engage with somebody, fine, start doing some projects, right? So on the MVP Inner Circle website, I've got a little simple course. It's $500. It shows you where to go, how to find them, all the statement of work, all that other stuff. So if you want to do projects, which is a great place to start, redo a logo, fix a website, fix some tech stuff, get an irrigation system design.
Yeah.
I got an irrigation system design. I'll have it done. Today's Monday. It'll be done on Wednesday.
Okay.
So this weekend I can meet with my landscaper. So, okay, how are we going to do this? And I can get it marked so it doesn't ruin the Ethernet lines I just put in for the man cave office. But anyway, so that's the trick is you got to decide, is it important enough to me? And then the beauty of the virtual team from a global perspective is that, am I willing to spend, I don't know, $1,000 on something that someone in my local market may want $10,000 for it?
Sure.
I mean, literally that's how my agency started. I would sell, I knew what the local market was. I would discount it by 25% and still go globally source it, and I would pocket the difference.
Yeah.
So I just got tired of doing it. It's good business. I got tired of being in the I have to get it done business, and that's why we shifted. And after I joined a mastermind, shifted to literally from me being responsible for doing everything. I've narrowed my offer down, inches instead of miles.
Yeah.
And we're super deep in it, but it's something that I strongly believe has to happen, because if outreach is not a part of your business, you're doomed.
Yeah.
Now, do a lot of businesses succeed with really good inbound systems or really good retention system, whatever? Yes.
But I would agree that I'll say 99, maybe more % of businesses, you do need to reach out to people in order to actually bring people in. The rest is either gravy, or you have found a wavelength that you've ridden and timed it well and done everything well. But I have not seen most things that work that way.
And you can change the channel, right? The channel could be email. The channel could be an ad. The channel could be retargeting. It's a million times easier to keep a customer than it is to get a new one.
Yeah.
And there's a growth strategy that says, and we do this for 2 clients, there's a growth strategy that says, I want to sell my existing clients more stuff. I want to get them to buy more often. And in one case, we're actually just creating more engagement from the sales team in front of them. So the sales guys are getting around to calling them to set up an in-person lunch and learn or whatever. We got that. How many weeks are you? Okay, we're going to take your Thursdays. We're going to take your schedule from 11 to 2 for the next 3 months. We'll just tell you where to go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then all of a sudden, each one of them has $400,000 or $500,000 of an additional pipeline from clients they already had, because they were offering a new line of business that they weren't getting the road noise. They weren't getting the marketing emails. They were ignoring it by setting a one-to-one conversation or one-to-many conversation to do that.
Sure.
But they weren't, I'll get around to that. Okay, you'll get around to that. Or we'll make 100 calls today. 10 people will pick up the phone. 2 will say yes, and then they'll figure out the scheduling stuff.
Yeah.
It's just math.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's that deadly line of I'll get around to it. I'm all too familiar with that line.
We have one of my friends runs a product called 3D Mail Results, and he does what's called 3D mail, which is lumpy mail, stuff you send in the mail that's got dimensional mail. And one of them is a round coin that says "to it," TUIT. And the letter he sends is, I hope you get around to it, and here it is. And he sends the round to it in the mail.
And that's memorable. So it's those kinds of things that like get you thinking, that break that mental monotony.
We do tons of shock and awe boxes. We call them shock and awe boxes because they're meant to drop on the table and shock and awe the people that are getting them. They can be anything. Sometimes they're shredded money. Sometimes they're chocolates. Sometimes they're straws. Sometimes they're. We did one for oars. Let's swim together. Like our competitors will send you down the river, but we won't. Here's an oar. Let's do it. And oh, by the way, we can use it to mix a cocktail with, kind of stuff.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of premiums that do that, but that's a part of the systems, right? That we use that work to create memorable contact, because people got a lot of choices. The number one reason companies leave clients is apathy, by a factor of 3 to 1. Reasons why they leave: price is low. So the number one reason people leave is customer apathy. Second highest reason people leave is the brother, cousin, next door neighbor has gotten into the business. The third highest then is somebody died. Those are the 3 highest reasons, and everything else. Price is on the list. I will challenge you to saying, if your customers are buying only on price, you're not providing enough value in other areas. So you have a mindset shift to saying, what can I do to provide more value without necessarily increasing your costs dramatically?
Yeah.
So one of the things we do, we send thank you cards from the CEO. We use a service, but we have a thank you card that goes out to every order. And we get feedback that says, wow, the CEO of this company just wrote a handwritten note with his personal card and said, thanks for the order. And it's because every week 35 to 75 of those go out.
Yeah.
Because we do it. Because
it makes a big impact. No, and it's if you can really control that leads to more. That it's almost inevitable that has to lead to more customers in the future.
We're seeing the customers that do that are in a highly commoditized industry.
Okay.
We're seeing, that's hard to tell, big customer base, kind of weird stuff. What we're seeing is the customer number of times they purchase per year going up about 15%.
Wow. Okay.
Now we can't, again, I'll take all the credit for it. I can't take all the credit for it. But so if you spend $100 and get $27,000, you're going to say, I'm going to do that all day long.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's because you can either get new customers, or you get your customers to buy more often, or you can raise your prices. We're just doing a buy more often strategy to get them to pull more transactions forward. And it seems to be You can't do that in every business. Sometimes it's a one and done. Right? People buying houses are going to buy a house every so many years.
But that's why you have the consulting side, because it's not a one size fits all.
That's why the inner circle exists, because it changes.
Yeah.
Right? We see shifts in the market. We see shifts in the tactics. LinkedIn was great 2 years ago. It's kind of crowded now. And quite honestly, your email box is full of spam. Hey, let's get together and have coffee. But I can still today spend 20 minutes a day for 3 days and have 5 live appointments. At myself. Yeah. And so it still happens. It still works because the right people are there. Yep. Right. Yep. And there's all kinds of psychology we can't get into that today. There's all kinds of psychology of why they're there and how to get them to react and that kind of stuff. But
sure. So, all right, cool. Well, thank you for coming in and doing this. I really appreciate it. Before we wrap up, I do want to talk about these books, or at least plug them so people know where they can get them. But
absolutely.
You've Stuck on First and then Power Hitting with Virtual Teams. This is not out yet, but this is coming out when?
So this is coming out in early April.
Okay, perfect. That'll be right around when this is launching.
If you want to get a copy of the book, go to stuckonfirst.com. I think it's $8 or $10. I'll autograph a copy for you, drop a copy in the mail, put you in the list so it knows what's going on.
Okay.
The Power Hitting book will be at virtualteamsecrets.com. And you'll be able to do, by the time this is out, you'll be able to get a pre-release copy, probably a forward, and then be notified when it goes out for availability. And it's literally soup to nuts of what you need to do to start thinking about the strategy and tactics of hiring your own virtual team. And if you want to have us help you, great. But if you want to do it yourself, great.
Okay.
Everyone needs help, right? The whole concept of $20 an hour for, the drive-in people at McDonald's is frustrating to many business owners. And I'm like, you could have a team of like 3 people for that. So, or two or three people for that. So now you're thinking the math is completely different.
Got it.
So, the math does make sense.
Sure.
College-educated person with 7 years experience for the price of a low-level, entry-level position here in Southwest Florida is pretty attractive.
Sure.
Someone that would cost 3 times the amount you're getting for entry-level wages. So
sure.
It's pretty interesting. So.
Got it. Cool. Well, hey, before we wrap this up, do you have anything else that you want to touch on?
Just do something. Version 1 is always better than version none. Go do something. Figure it out. Everyone stumbles. Everyone strikes out. Best batters in the world strike out 7 times out of 10. And they get paid $50 million a year. Not everything you do is going to be perfect, but if you do nothing, take the bat out of your hand. The guys in the dugout that don't have a bat in their hand, there's no way they're going to hit. Yeah. So, by implementing this virtual team stuff, it gives you a bat in your hand. Take it how you want to use it. Use it to your benefit.
Sure.
It's not an answer for everything, but find those low level, those singles and doubles that you're doing. Either don't do them, or actually just have someone else do it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, amen to that. I appreciate it. Well, Bryan, thank you for coming and doing this. I really appreciate it.
This was great.
Yeah, thanks.